Okay, so this video is going to be the first video in a series of videos where I teach you the basics of Golang. In this video, we will be learning about executing a simple hello world function in Golang. Then we will be learning about what are the different types in Golang. And we will be seeing a little bit of functions, a small snippet of functions. And yeah, and if we have time, maybe we will make a small project, very basic, if we have time. So let's jump right into it without wasting any more time. So for the first thing first, we will first create a folder for our project. So let's see, let's create a folder and we will call it Golang Basics. This one, Golang Basics. Once we've created the folder, we'll open our VS Code. Let's open our new folder. This is the one. Let's open it. Let's don't save. All right. Now, before we start working on any Golang project, we need something called as, let me just zoom in my VS Code a little bit so that you can see the code properly. Okay. So before we start coding in Golang, there is certain prerequisite that we need. And the first prerequisite is we need a Golang mod file. Now, what is a mod file? Mod file is basically similar to what we have like package.json in JavaScript. So like package.json, it keeps a track of all your dependencies and whatever versioning that you're using. Similarly, Go mod file also keeps a track of all your dependencies and the current version of Golang that you are using. So let's do that first. Let's create a mod file and let's see how to do that. So let's open the terminal. Okay. Let's just remove it right now and install this thing. Sorry about that. Okay, so we will create a Go mod file. And the command to do it is go mod init. This command will initialize a mod file, but before you do that, you need to give a name to this mod file. So whatever name you give here will be the name of the application, the current application that you're working on. So generally people make a repository in GitHub and then use the URL of the repository as their mod file name. But since this is a small project, this is just a learning project, so we will not be using a GitHub repo. We will just keep it local and we will call it Golang Basics. So let's just call it Golang Basics. All right, so as soon as I did that, you can see the Go mod file is created. If I open this, you can see two things. First is the module, and the module name is Golang Basics. It just means that this application is called Golang Basics. And then Go 1.24.5. This is the current version of Golang that is currently installed in my system. That's it, nothing too fancy. Okay, so before we move on, let's just do git init just to initialize an empty git repository. Perfect. Now, let's create the first file where we will be doing most of the coding. So the first file that we create is called main.go. So every file in Golang has the extension .go, has to end with the .go extension, right? And we are naming it main.go because this file will contain our main function. So just like in Java, Java has a main function, which is the entry point of the application. Similarly in Golang, Golang has a main function, which is the entry point of the application. So our main.go file will contain the main function. And you can see on line number 1, there's something called as package main. Don't worry about packages too much right now. It is similar to what you have in Java. It works similar to it, but not entirely. But yeah, just understand for now that the main function is there in the package main, right? So now we need to create the main function. How do we do that? We use the func keyword, F-U-N-C. And then we write the main and then the curly braces. So this is how you define a function in Golang. And this is our main function. So this is the entry point of our application. Whenever you run your application, your operating system will call this main function to execute your code. Okay. Now we need to print hello world. First things. So hello world, to print something on the output or to print something on the console, we need to use an inbuilt package Golang comes with its own standard library. So Golang has many inbuilt packages. One of those inbuilt packages is called FMT, which is short form for formatter. So the FMT package is what you're going to use for all sorts of input output operations, or getting user input, or printing something to the console, things like that. So FMT package is what is needed. So how do we need to first import that package? So how do we import it? We just say import. We use the import keyword just like in JavaScript, nothing fancy. And then we use double quotes and then the name of the package. In this case, FMT. Okay. Now it is throwing an error. If we hover over it, it says FMT imported but not used. So Golang compiler will throw these helpful errors so that you do not have any unused imports. Just it helps you to keep your code base clean. So Golang compiler is very, very helpful in that regard. Okay, so now we have the FMT package. Now we need to use the functions inside this FMT package, and then we need to print something, print hello world on the screen. So just like in C++, you have cout, cin. In Java, you have system.out.println. Similarly, in Golang, we have fmt.println. So the name of the package dot. Once you use the dot operator, you will see all the available functions inside this package. So right now we need to print something on the console, so we will be using println. Println just means that whatever arguments you pass to this function, it will print this argument on the console and add a new line character at the end automatically. So let's just write something, hello world, and save it. Okay, so now our basic Golang application is done, right? This is how you print hello world, just like one simple line. So easy. I mean, no boilerplate code is needed, unlike Java, and it's very, very compact. So now how do we run this? How do we test whether this works or not? So for that, we will use a command called go run and then the name of the file that we are trying to execute. So in this case, we will use go run main.go. Once I hit enter, it will compile and execute your code. So Golang is a compiled language. It will first compile it to machine code natively and then execute that binary. And there is no JVM required in Golang. It compiles down to zeros and ones. That is why it's so fast. So as you can see, it is printing hello world to the screen. So this is the way you print something on the screen. So you've already learned something about Golang, how to print at least, right? Okay. So next, I hope this makes sense. It's not too difficult to understand, I believe. It's just simple import statement, and then we are using the function, println function. That's it. Now, let's learn about what are the different types of data that are available to us in Golang. So we have multiple types of data. We have numerical types, we have again string, we have booleans. These are basically the inbuilt types, primitive types rather. So first we have numbers. Let's just use this one. Oops. So we have numbers. In numbers we have int 8, int 32, int 64, and then these are the types for integers. And then we have floating point types as well, which are used to represent decimals. So we have float 32 and float 64. 32 and 64 are the number of bits that this variable can hold. So the more the bits, the more larger number you can store, right? That is the basic understanding concept. Now, apart from this, we have boolean, which is basically written as bool, which is again true or false, which can be true or false. Now, in the end, we have string, which is defined like this, string, and every string is in double quotes in Golang. You cannot use single quote strings like you can do in JavaScript. So every string has to be in double quotes. Nothing too fancy. I hope this makes sense. Okay, moving on. So these are the primitive types that are inbuilt in Golang. Now, we need to use these types and we need to define certain variables so that we can use those variables in our program. So how do you define a variable in Golang? So let's see how to define a variable in Golang. Okay, so there are three ways to define variables. three ways to define variables. The first way, using var keyword. So Golang, just like JavaScript, has the var keyword. Just like in JavaScript you use var to define a variable, similarly in Golang as well you use the var keyword. Now how do we use it? Let's see. So let's say I need to define a numerical variable, let's say number 1. So how do I do that? I use the var keyword first, var, and then the name of the variable I want, in this case number 1, and then we need to mention the type of the variable. So in this case I want it to be an integer, right? So this is a variable declaration. You have defined a variable number 1 and you have not given it a value. So it's a declaration, not initialization. Initialization means that you are giving it a value, but in this case we are not. We are just defining it. So this is how you define a variable. Var keyword, variable name, and then the type name. Now this is called a declaration. What if you want to initialize instead of declare? You want to give it a value as well. It's very simple. The only thing that you have to do is just add an equal to and then give the value. That's it. This is how you initialize a variable. So in this case, the number 1 will have value 10. Now this is called explicit initialization. Explicit, because you're explicitly mentioning the type of your data. So you are explicitly mentioning the type, in this case int. That is why it's called explicit initialization. There is one more initialization which is called implicit initialization. So in this case, let's say var number 2. In this case, we will not give it a type. We will just say 20. This is called implicit initialization, right? Because if we hover over number 2, the compiler automatically interprets that this number 2 is of type int, as you can see over here. So the compiler has automatically done our job. We don't have to explicitly mention the type. The type is being derived from the value that we have given to it. So this is implicit initialization, that is explicit initialization. So this is one of the ways that you can declare and initialize variables in Golang. There is one more way, which is the most used way, and in most production applications, you will see that kind of initialization. So let's see. Most used way of initialization in Golang. So how do you do that? Let's say I'm initializing number 3 variable. I'll just write number 3, name of the variable. Then I will use colon, and then equal to, and then the value. So this is the third way to initialize a variable, using the colon equal to symbol, right? And this is the most common way that you will see variables being initialized in production applications. Generally, these two ways are not that commonly used. This is the most commonly used, right? So in future as well, if you want to initialize, just go this way. It's much easier, much faster, much more compact. So you are saving a lot of time without having to write var, without having to write the type. Just use this and it will save you a lot of time. Now, there is one more difference between var and this form of initialization. So let's see what is that. Difference between var and colon equal to. Var can be used for declaration and initialization, but colon equal to cannot be used for just declaration. What do I mean by that? So you can use var just to declare a variable without having to give it a value. But if you're using colon equal to symbol, you have to give it a value. Otherwise the compiler will throw an error. So what do I mean by that? Let's see. I will declare two more variables, variable 4 and variable 5. First I'll use var number 4. and then call it int. This is perfectly correct syntax. So we have just declared a variable called number 4 and we have not given it any value. This is a perfect syntax. But if I do this, number 5 colon equal to, and I don't give it a value, it will throw an error, compilation error. Expected operand found this. So when I'm using colon equal to symbol, I have to give it a value. This cannot be used for declaration. This is always used for initialization. So let's give it a value 50 and now it's perfect. These errors are because we have not used the variables. If we just print them, the errors are gone. So let's just print them quickly. Print ln number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. See, all the errors are gone. So we are basically printing everything on screen. So let's see if it works. Go run main.go, hello world 10, 20, 30, 0, 50. Okay. Now, did you see one thing? It says 10, 20, 30, 0, 50. Now, where is this 0 coming from? We have not specified 0 anywhere in our application, right? So this 0 is coming from line number 28. So whenever you declare a variable in Golang and you do not give it a value, that means you do not initialize the variable, the Golang compiler will automatically assign it a 0 value. Now the 0 value will depend on what kind of variable it is. If it is an integer, the 0 value becomes 0. If it is a string, the 0 value will become empty string. If it is a boolean, the 0 value will become false. So the Golang compiler itself will assign a 0 value in case you have not assigned it a value. This is not JavaScript. If you don't assign a value with the let keyword and it throws an error, Golang does not do that. Golang will automatically assign it a 0th value so that at least your compiler can compile the code. So this is one of the key differences between Golang and JavaScript. I hope this makes sense. It's not that complicated to understand. Okay, so now our variables are done. Okay, we now know what integers are and how to use integers. Okay, so now let's move on. Let's see how strings work in Golang. So this will be the last topic and then we can continue with the next video later. So if I just comment out all of this code, I don't need it. Let's just comment, okay. And let's comment hello world as well. Right. Now we need to learn about strings. So how do strings work in Golang? So to define a string, we will use the var keyword again. str1, let's call it str1, and then we give the value, the type of the variable is a string, and then equal to, let's say abcd. Either we can do this or we can also do this. String2 colon equal to abcd. So both are valid syntax, or we can do this as well. Just remove the string and this also works. But I will be using the colon equal to because that is the most commonly used. So to define a string, you use double quotes and then you put the value inside it. Nothing too fancy. Now, in Golang, strings are immutable. Immutable means once you have defined a string, you cannot change it. It will remain the way it is. Okay. So once str2 is abcd, it will remain abcd and you cannot change the value because they're immutable. You can copy it and make a new string. That's a different thing, but str itself cannot change. If you try to change it, it will create a new copy all the unchanged characters and then give you a new string, right? So it works in an immutable fashion. Now, you want to access a particular character of the string. Let's say you want to access a. If you do str0, if you try to access the 0th index of the string, in languages like C++ or Java, you get the character back. So you will get a back. But in Golang, there is no concept of characters or char. Golang does not have char keyword. So it does not handle char. Everything in Golang is a string. But if you try to access individual characters of a string, it will return a byte, a raw byte instead of a character. So what do I mean by that? Let's see. If I again use fmt.println and I try to print string 0, str and the 0th index. Basically, I'm trying to print a. I want to print a. Now let's see if this works or not. Okay, as you can see, it did not print A, it printed 65. 65 is the byte representation of A. So Golang itself does not have the concept of chars. It treats every character as a byte representation, right? UTF-8 encoding, it generally uses UTF-8 encoding. Although I may be wrong, I'm not sure, but every character is treated as a byte. Now, if you want to actually see the character instead of the byte, then we need to do something called as typecasting. So we just wrap the string zeroth index and then we wrap it around a string keyword. So basically whatever this value is, we are typecasting it to a string, and now if we print it, it will print the A. As you can see, now it is printing A. So basically we typecasted the byte into a string and then we are printing the string. But always remember, Golang does not have the concept of characters. Every individual character in a string is basically a byte. That's how Golang treats it, right? So that is the basics of string. And one more thing, let's learn a little bit about string formatting. I hope this makes sense. It's nothing too fancy, not that difficult to understand, I hope. Okay, let me just remove it for now. Now let's say I need to print, hello, my name is ABCD. So I can either do this, fmt.println, hello, my name is ABCD. But now you see I have hard coded the name ABCD, but I don't want to hard code the name. I want to keep it dynamic. And then I want to feed this value from a variable somewhere defined in some other part of my application. So how do I do that? If you remember, in JavaScript, we use basically these type of strings, I believe. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we use these backticks, and then we use our dollar and then curly braces, and then we, let's say, str2, we define the variable inside it, and then this is dynamically placed in the string. JavaScript allows us to do string formatting like this. So Golang also has a similar concept, but in Golang what happens is, instead of writing dollar and curly braces, we don't do that. In Golang we use something called as a placeholder value. Placeholder value can be, if you have used C program, then in C, when you use the printf function, you have to give them a %d, %s. Basically, you have to give the function a symbol which tells the function what kind of data this is, right? That is the similar concept. We have to use a placeholder value, and the placeholder should match that kind of data that you're trying to place in there. So now we are trying to print a string. We need to place a string here, dynamically place a string here. So we use a symbol, placeholder symbol called %s. %s. Now as you can see, it has become highlighted. Now this means that this value is dynamic and should come from a variable, right? And this variable has to be of type string. Okay, and one more thing, println does not allow string formatting. To use string formatting, you need to use printf function. So wherever there is an f in any function, printf, there are many functions like that. F always means formatted function. So wherever there is an f, that means that function allows you to format a string or format the output. So printf function allows us to format it, and then we can use a placeholder called %s. Now this placeholder will expect the variable which needs to be placed here. So we use comma and then we use str2. Now when I run this, it will print hello, my name is ABCD. Let's see. You can see hello, my name is ABCD. So this is the concept of placeholder values. Let's say I want to add some numbers as well. Hello, my name is ABCD. My age is 32. Let's say I want to print that. So I will just add a comma and say my age is, and now I want to place a digit over here, an integer over here. 32 is a digit, not a string. So we cannot use %s. We have to use another placeholder symbol called %d. So now the compiler will expect this placeholder to get a value which is of type int. Now I can just pass in here 32, and now it should work. As you can see, hello, my name is ABCD, my age is 32. Now one more thing, if I repeat the placeholder, the values will be repeated. Percentage %s, percentage %s, percentage %s, right? Now I have used three percentage %s, but I'm only providing one variable called string2. So always remember the number of placeholder symbols has to be equal to the number of arguments that you're passing. So you're only passing two arguments, but you are using 4 placeholder values. So this will not work. The placeholder values and the number of arguments will always have to be same. So now since we have three strings over here, it expects three strings. So let's just pass string2 three times. String2, and then string2. And see, all the errors are gone. So three string2s and 132. Three percentage S's and one percentage D. So now it should work. Hello, my name is ABCD, ABCD, ABCD. My age is 32. So this is the whole concept behind string formatting. So I think this should be enough for today. If this makes sense, I hope. And if you have any confusions, any doubts, please reach out to me on my Instagram DMs. The link will be in the description. And you can add comments on YouTube channel itself, and I'll read them and I'll try to help you out. Okay. Thank you. Bye.